Hello again, this is Steph from Polio Australia with another video about managing fatigue. In our first video we talked about pacing, and then in the second one we talked about using an activity diary and we looked at a couple of examples. If you'd like to catch up on those videos, we'll make sure there's links below for you to watch those. In this one we want to talk about how to put it all together, so how to understand what your activity tolerances are from using your activity diary and then put pacing into practice by planning your activities. For some people, planning is something that they do in a written down way. So they write down what they want to do for the week and they balance activity and rest by writing down the activities that they're going to do. For other people, planning is something that they do in their head. Either way is fine, but I just thought I'd show you a couple of written examples so you get the idea of what I mean. Let's have a look at the first one. So just a quick recap on the activity diary of this person. Okay, so they've got a lot of activities in the morning and they crash and then they spend the rest of the afternoon in bed. Okay, so they're doing more than what they're able to tolerate and their fatigue levels are going up, energy levels are coming down, and they need to rest. Okay, for example, after an hour of gardening, the person's energy is rated at 3 out of 10. They still do a little bit more gardening and after 90 minutes it's at 2 out of 10. But you get the idea that even 60 minutes is more than they can really tolerate. Okay, so let's have a look at what that person's activity levels might be, or what that person's activity balance might be if they prepare and pace. Okay, so they get up and have breakfast. After that, which is relatively restful, energy's at about 6 out of 10. So they're not jumping up and down with energy, but they're doing okay. They have a shower and get dressed, which does drain them a little bit, but they're still at about 5 out of 10. They follow that up with a restful activity, so they're balancing activity and rest. Now it doesn't necessarily have to mean just sitting and doing nothing. This person's got a friend they want to catch up with over the phone, so they spend 35 minutes on the phone and energy levels have returned to about 6 out of 10. There is some gardening that they want to do, but they don't want to do it all at once and completely zap their energy. So they spend 25 minutes out in the garden and energy levels dropped a little bit to 4 out of 10. They sit down, have a cup of tea and check some emails. So again, it's productive time, but they're using their body in a different way. Energies come up to about 5 out of 10. They start the lunch preparation, and that's another type of pacing. So you can see the gardening, they've put a limit on how much they're doing at once and they'll do the rest at a later point in the week. With the lunch prep, there's a limit on how much they're doing in one go and they'll sit down and have a rest and then continue later that same day. Okay, so they do 15 minutes of lunch prep and then sit down and read the paper. They get up and put a load of washing on and then continue sitting down, reading the paper. They might be doing a jigsaw puzzle, they might be drawing, whatever it is, but they're doing something restful. And then they get up and do the other 15 minutes of lunch prep. And then sit down and eat lunch, which as we discussed last time, I put in orange because it's sort of restful, but you are semi-active. After lunch, they sit down and have a rest again. They get up and hang the washing, and so on throughout the day. So you can see the red and green are alternating, so they're balancing activity and rest. Let's have a look at another example. So this one is a little bit less structured, but still written down. This person is just talking about what they want to do in the mornings, the afternoons, and the evenings, and how they're going to balance their activity with something restful. So in this one I haven't listed what those restful things are, but you get some idea of what sort of things that you like to do or can do while you're sitting down or using your body in a different way. So as we said, it might be reading, it might be jigsaw puzzles, you might be a writer, you might like to spend time on Facebook, something like that, but something that you do that's restful. Okay, this is a reflection on the person from the first video. The person who spent 60 minutes vacuuming and then the rest of the day in bed because it was too much for them. This time they've decided to do half an hour at a time and spread it across the week. So it's still getting done in the week, but just not all at once. So Monday morning they do a bit of vacuuming, they do something restful, they get up and make lunch, they do another restful activity, they go out on that coffee date with their friend, come back and rest for a bit, go outside and paint on their easel for a bit, come inside and rest for a bit, get up and make dinner, rest. Okay, so you can see again the balance of red and green. The next day they do a little bit of gardening, and again they'll spread that across the week, followed by rest, get up and make lunch as per yesterday, followed by rest. They do their grocery shopping, which again they know if they do it all at once it'll zap their energy, so they split the grocery shopping across 2 trips in the week. Follow that by rest, go out and do a little bit of exercise, rest, get up and make dinner, rest. And then the next day they do the rest of the vacuuming, they rest, they get up and make lunch, they rest, they hang out some washing that they seem to have put on earlier today and we haven't written that down, but that's okay. They rest, and the evening looks a little bit different. They're going out for dinner with friends, they know that it's going to zap their energy, so they rest a little bit more than usual beforehand, and they get to bed early that night, or at least rest early that night, okay? So they're preparing their rest breaks in advance, knowing what's going to zap their energy. That might work for you, that might not be how you do it, that's okay. Either way, what this person is doing is balancing activity and rest, knowing what their limits are, and resting before the point that they reach those limits. So, do you plan your activities? If so, does planning mean writing it down, or do you just plan it in your head? Is this something that you think you're good at, or something that you find challenging? What recommendations would you have for others? We'd love to hear from you. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the link to the Facebook post so you can add your comments there. Thanks!